Table of contents: the Shah's nuclear vision, seeds of ambition, revolution and realignment, the nuclear program under Khomeini, a program unveiled, international alarm and Iranian assertions, the shadow of sanctions, global pressure and Iranian defiance, a promise on the horizon, the JCPOA and a glimmer of hope, shattered trust, the US withdrawal and a return to tensions, brinkmanship and uncertainty, Iran's response and regional implications, the diplomatic tightrope, navigating a path to resolution, the stakes of failure, proliferation, conflict and global security. Section 10. Beyond the headlines, transparency, trust and a future without fear. Written by Gareth Porter. Manufactured Crisis: The Untold Story of the Iran Nuclear Scare. American universities trained Iranian scientists, and Western companies provided Iran with research reactors and enriched uranium. The Shah's nuclear ambitions were seen as progress and a testament to the close relationship between Washington and Tehran. However, early cooperation sowed seeds of future controversy. Critics argued Iran's nuclear program could lay the groundwork for future weapons development. Concerns were raised about the Shah's authoritarian rule and potential misuse of nuclear technology. Despite warnings, the Shah's nuclear program expanded in the 60s and 70s. Iran signed the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons in 1968, pledging peaceful use of nuclear energy. The 1979 Islamic Revolution, which brought Ayatollah Khomeini to power, marked a turning point in Iran's nuclear trajectory. The new Islamic Republic halted the Shah's program, viewing it as a symbol of Western influence. Facing a brutal conflict and fearing the use of chemical weapons by Saddam Hussein's regime, Iran, under Khomeini's leadership, decided to revive its nuclear program. This time, however, Iran sought assistance from countries outside the Western Bloc, primarily China and Russia. This shift in alliances raised red flags in Western capitals, particularly in Washington. The United States, now deeply suspicious of Iran's intentions, accused Tehran of secretly pursuing nuclear weapons under the guise of a peaceful program. These accusations, vehemently denied by Iran, would become a recurring theme in the decades-long standoff between the two countries. Iran's nuclear program, once a symbol of US-Iranian cooperation, had become a point of contention and a source of deep mistrust. The stage was set for a protracted conflict, fueled by suspicion, misperception, and the ever-present danger of military escalation. The early 21st century witnessed growing international concern over Iran's nuclear program. In 2002, revelations of previously undeclared nuclear facilities at Natanz and Arak, discovered by an Iranian opposition group, sent shockwaves through the international community. These revelations, coupled with Iran's continued uranium enrichment activities, fueled fears that Tehran was secretly developing nuclear weapons capability. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, launched a series of inspections and demanded greater transparency from Iran. Iran, while maintaining that its nuclear program was solely for peaceful purposes, resisted full cooperation, arguing that it had the right to develop nuclear technology for energy and other civilian applications under the NPT. This period saw a dramatic escalation in tensions between Iran and the West, particularly the United States. The George W. Bush administration, in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks and the invasion of Iraq, labeled Iran part of an axis of evil, accusing it of sponsoring terrorism and seeking weapons of mass destruction. The threat of military action loomed large, casting a long shadow over diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis. Iran, for its part, felt increasingly isolated and unfairly targeted. It argued that its nuclear program was a matter of national pride and a legitimate pursuit of technological advancement. Tehran's defiance, coupled with its continued enrichment activities, only served to deepen the international community's anxieties. In response to Iran's nuclear defiance, the United Nations Security Council imposed a series of sanctions targeting Iran's economy and its nuclear program. These sanctions, endorsed by the United States, the European Union, and other major powers, were designed to pressure Iran into halting its enrichment activities and complying with IAEA demands. The sanctions had a significant impact on Iran's economy, crippling its oil exports, restricting its access to international finance, and causing widespread hardship for ordinary Iranians. Despite the economic pain, Iran refused to buckle under pressure, viewing the sanctions as an infringement on its sovereignty and an attempt to deny its right to peaceful nuclear technology. This period witnessed a tense standoff between Iran and the West, with both sides locked in a cycle of defiance and escalation. The threat of military action remained a constant backdrop, raising the specter of a wider conflict in the Middle East. The international community, deeply divided on how to address the Iranian nuclear challenge, struggled to find a peaceful and lasting solution. Despite the escalating tensions, diplomatic channels remained open. The P5+1 group, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, the United States plus Germany, engaged in intermittent negotiations with Iran, seeking a diplomatic breakthrough that could avert a military confrontation and pave the way for a more stable and secure Middle East. In 2015, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or Iran Nuclear Deal, was signed. This historic agreement between Iran and the P5+1 group aimed to resolve the Iranian nuclear crisis. Iran agreed to limit its uranium enrichment activities and reduce its stockpile of enriched uranium. The IAEA was granted unprecedented access to Iran's nuclear facilities. In return, most international sanctions on Iran were lifted. The JCPOA was celebrated as a major diplomatic achievement. However, the deal faced significant challenges and skepticism from hardliners. Despite this, it showed that even tough conflicts could be resolved through diplomacy. Withdrawal and a return to tensions. In May 2018, the Trump administration, citing alleged Iranian violations and flaws in the agreement, unilaterally withdrew the United States from the JCPOA. The decision, widely condemned by the international community, marked a significant setback for diplomacy and plunged the Iranian nuclear issue back into crisis. The US withdrawal from the JCPOA had far-reaching consequences both for the Iran nuclear deal itself and for the broader international order. The reimposition of US sanctions, coupled with a policy of maximum pressure, had a devastating impact on Iran's economy, fueling resentment among the Iranian population and strengthening the hand of hardliners opposed to any engagement with the West. The Trump administration's actions also undermined the credibility of the United States as a reliable negotiating partner, damaging transatlantic relations and eroding trust in the international system. The JCPOA, once hailed as a model for multilateral diplomacy, was left on life support, with the remaining parties struggling to salvage the agreement in the face of US opposition. The US withdrawal from the JCPOA marked a return to brinkmanship and uncertainty in the Middle East. The risk of military escalation increased, as did the potential for Iran to resume its nuclear activities at full capacity. The international community, once again divided on how to address the Iranian nuclear challenge, faced the daunting task of preventing a nuclear-armed Iran while avoiding a catastrophic war in the region. Tehran, while condemning the US decision, opted to remain within the framework of the agreement, hoping to salvage the deal through negotiations with the remaining parties. However, as US sanctions tightened and European efforts to provide economic relief faltered, Iran's patience wore thin. In a calibrated response to what it perceived as European inaction and continued US hostility, Iran gradually began to reduce its compliance with the JCPOA. Tehran argued that it was exercising its right under the agreement to scale back its commitments in response to the other party's non-compliance. Iran's actions, while technically permissible under the JCPOA, raised alarm bells in Western capitals, particularly in Washington. The Trump administration, determined to portray Iran as the primary source of instability in the region, seized upon these breaches as evidence of Tehran's malign intentions. the United States ramped up its military presence in the Persian Gulf, accusing Iran of attacking oil tankers and sponsoring terrorism.